All right, everyone. Welcome to eryo5 Radio here on this June 17th, 2011 at 7:30 p.m. I hope everyone's doing okay. We've got Brian on the Skype line here.
Hello.
And Derek in studio.
How's it going, guys?
That's going pretty well.
Yeah.
Brian, do you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
It's going well.
That's good.
So we were going to talk tonight about nicknames. Excuse me. Where nicknames come from, the nicknames that we have for people, how they developed, and all the hilarious stories along those lines. But just to kind of bring us in here, I thought we would talk a little bit about small talk. We could either make small talk or talk about small talk.
Or have a small talk moment.
I don't really know what that means, but
Brian, do you know what that means?
I second that one. I don't know what that means.
Old Conan O'Brien. Old.
Yeah, I thought it sounded familiar. I know what that is.
I was going to say to Derek...
It involved Conan and Max Weinberg having a stare down, but that's neither here nor there.
I was going to say to Derek that Brian and I probably have very similar familiarity with, cultural things. If I don't know something, then he probably won't. But things like Conan, I don't know, Brian's been in normal for a few years now. There are probably plenty of things that he knows all about that I just don't do because...
That's not the normal way.
He's...
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
He went there. Okay.
Yeah,
he went there.
He did a normal pun. That kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
But I could have just meant the town of normal. Just everything you say becomes a pun. I might not have meant it as a pun.
Yeah, it just automatically becomes it, and you are aware of the fact that it could be becoming that.
It becomes a pun. Well, I'm aware of that because everything, any time you say town of normal name, it is a pun. I think the intention is really, that's the important thing.
Oh. Well, anyway, speaking of small talk...
How are we doing so far?
We're doing a pretty good job. We're talking about where we came from, cultural references, quoting things.
Did you figure my quote out yet?
Oh, I don't think so. I can hear you. It sounds very familiar. I'm not going to sit here on the show trying to figure it out.
Seinfeld.
Nope. It's not a super obvious one. That is your hint.
Okay. Have we seen this?
I know Eric has seen it.
You know Eric has seen it. Okay, so this question should be geared towards you.
I know I've heard it before. Brian, we are rolling now, so you're just going to have to tell it to me.
This probably won't help, but the line that preceded it was, well, I could say the name of the character, but that'd probably give it away. But, can you hear me? And then, said like that. And then, I can hear you.
Yeah, I know that. I was
picturing
that.
And then the following line is, think about that. And then audience laughter.
Everybody loves Raymond.
No. Probably doesn't help much. Should I give the...
That's a hint that it's a sitcom. Because audience laughter.
Audience laughter, yeah.
Would you please give it away, Brian?
How about this? The character name before it. Al. Can you hear me?
It's from Tool Time? Or Home Improvement?
Yeah. Can you picture the actual scene at all? It actually was Tool Time.
Yeah. Well, with Al, I would imagine. I don't know. I mean, this is not what the show's about.
But this is small talk.
It is,
Speaking of small talk, okay, it was lunchtime. I go to lunch when I go to lunch, I go heat up my lunch in the microwave at the kitchenette with Leo.
Who's a big fan of the show, by the way.
Yeah. Every day at the same time. And, you kind of have to make small talk, sort of. And I'm not a big small talk person, really, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. We talked about the whole saying hello and goodbye thing, which I think is a waste of time and kind of awkward. But let's see. What
Now
was
you're against hellos and goodbyes too?
Well, it was the good morning thing. That's what it was.
The good morning.
Saying
yes.
good morning every day. But
good old Thanksgiving 2010. You know.
What does that have to do with good morning?
We were having this discussion with Brian and Cora.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly.
Thanksgiving 2010.
That's when we were having it, yes.
And Cindy was getting irritated because she doesn't like small talk or something.
I think I offended Cora.
I thought you offended Cindy more than anybody else. I thought Cora was in on the lively debate.
She was in a... Well, okay, that's
Cindy
true.
was just
Cindy was just annoyed.
Cindy really wanted to go home.
Yeah.
She wanted us to stop talking about it.
Yeah.
And she did nothing to hide the fact that she didn't want us to talk about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But you know.
I said something to Leo that was... Oh, yes, I don't know if this is good small talk, but I told Leo brought breakfast for the company today, and it was a lot of really good-looking dessert food, and, you know, we were both in the kitchenette, and I'm like, I'm going to have an epic dessert here at about 12 o'clock. 6 minutes till my epic dessert. And, I don't know. Well, there's a context behind it, but basically I try to be sort of funny. But, you know, I mean, the whole, how you doing, how are the kids? I mean, it's just obvious you're trying to pass the time.
How are the kids? We haven't gone there yet.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
I think that's pretty specific. How are the kids? And there's nothing wrong with asking how the kids are doing.
I mean, that's true. I guess that's what small talk is. That should be relevant, but that's become a cliche. Maybe I just don't like cliches.
Yeah, the only problem with the how are you or how are the kids or how are these people is the answer that you just need to give is good or fine.
Yeah,
you're not. If you go into negative details about it, then that's not the spirit of the question, where it probably should be the spirit of the question. Otherwise, it's just a phony question.
Yeah, It's become obvious that anyone who says, how is so-and-so, it doesn't mean it, and...
Not necessarily, though. It depends on how they ask it.
Yes,
they
it
just
does. It does.
No.
It depends. Yes, it depends on how they ask it.
It does, okay.
I was agreeing with you.
Thank you.
But...
Now, correct my memory.
Many people feel they have to ask it.
Okay, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. You were... Was Cora pro small talk or no?
Well, the issue wasn't small talk; it was good morning.
It was good morning, right? It was basically cliche things, and it seems like she was kind of defending it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
she took the positive side.
She took the right.
If anyone did, she did.
She was good cop.
Yeah, I mean,
towards that thing.
I don't know. I forget all the real details of it. I mean, generally, I guess I was. It seemed like I was basically agreeing with her, and this is what I'm thinking. I don't know what she was thinking, but I always kind of thought that the spirit of it is just a polite greeting, and the actual meaning of the word "good morning" or "how are you" or whatever. Technically, yeah, it's phony because it's just meant as a greeting, but our culture has just kind of evolved into the greetings are these few stock phrases, and the act of greeting people, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean,
see,
I think
that's where I think there is a
polite.
problem.
Because, I mean...
I don't like greeting people every day. It's a waste of time.
Well, and that was the other thing, the waste of time, and I remember Cora was saying it takes 2 seconds. And if it does, end up being a long conversation that's going nowhere and it's just pointless small talk with somebody you don't really know, then okay. Just a greeting to make things less awkward, like I'm ignoring you, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I understand that that's the reality of it. We do it so that it's not awkward. I just don't think it should be awkward if you walk by somebody. It is, and there's nothing we can do about that. But
Yeah, I mean, in the culture that we have, the way that culture has, what our culture has evolved into, these are just the way things are, and, there's...
Probably always
there's always a way that things are about anything. And in every culture and in every aspect of our lives, there's a way things are. And we can debate that, but that's just still the way things are. And so to me, the more argument is, whether, talking about the old phrases and whether we should be using those phrases. So.
If we could all please turn our cell phones off.
Mine's on silent. Always. Because you never know.
Mine's on just in case.
When it might deeply embarrass you.
I keep mine on at all times in case Brian drops and he calls me. So that we maintain communication.
Anyway, I had to make small talk with a 9-year-old recently, and that was interesting because, like all of my students, it's always interesting to say things like "How are you?" to them, or just to make small talk because they're not as desensitized or whatever. They're not, in on what cultural norms are quite as much, and so they tend to answer truthfully, and
they take things more literally.
Isn't that awesome, though?
And so I always say, "How are you?" like the first thing I say to my students, and sometimes they'll just say "good" because they know that's the polite thing to say. But I'm always interested to really truly know how they are and how their week has been, and whatever. And they usually have something to say, and so it's interesting. Adults are the ones who just pass it off as a greeting.
I mean, the fact that kids are actually, when you get down to it, more honest than adults, that's fascinating to me.
Well, they are. Yeah, they're known to be that.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with being curious about how someone is and talking about it. I usually try to give the most honest answer I can, if someone asks.
Unless you don't know them.
No, even if I don't know them, I would say.
And move on.
Well, yeah, I probably.
If somebody you didn't know asked you a really personal question,
I'm not saying I answer everything just because I'm asked, but if it's reasonable, I try to give a truthful answer. At least I hope that I'm a person who does that. I don't know. Anyway, we should probably move on to the topic, which is nicknames. And I'm going to slide band names in there also.
Because we have a lot of those.
We have a lot of band names, a lot of nicknames, a lot of names that we call loved ones, family, friends, pets, not loved ones.
Now, when you say band names, do you mean real band names or band names that...
Well, I think we'll come
up with Eric's list of 300 band names.
Exactly, which I haven't seen the list. Apparently, he's charging for them, but...
You haven't seen the list?
No less than 60.
Well, I do have a big list of band names because I guess at some point I just realized the idea of band names is interesting, and there's really nothing else like it.
So wait, Eric's charging just to view the list or to take a name from the list and use it?
I have no idea. Apparently I'm charging Derek just to view it.
He's just a dirty, filthy human being.
But the whole idea of a band name, like, name a band name.
That's true.
Sludge Pump or something like that. What else would you name something like, band names is a whole genre of words in itself.
Exactly. No, because, I mean, when you look at movie titles or book titles...
I'm going to write that down, Sludge Pump.
Yeah. Sump Pump Discharge?
Well, yeah, I guess it would be the...
It's an homage.
Exactly.
A tribute band.
A tribute. No, but like movie names, book names, you look at, I mean, they have something to do with the actual story. Whereas...
That's right, band names are just a cool sounding set of words.
Whereas, I mean, what does Hoobastank have anything to do with their songs? You know what I'm saying?
That's interesting.
Well, the thing about bands are that they come up with so many different songs. It's not like one band has one topic that they sing about in every song.
No, I'm not right. I'm not saying that. Right.
That's the reason why they don't do it that way.
That's what makes it more fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that? How like you think about a band that you know or like, and do they have a theme, just an overall kind of theme that would describe them as a band?
Well, they have a style. They have a musical style, but they don't necessarily have a genre of, these are the things that we talk about in our songs, These are our lyrics. What?
Maybe they do.
Some bands sing more songs than others, and some sing more love songs than others, and all that. But
right.
Even those bands tend to still mix it up.
Okay, but you're not going to have a band that, like, they'll have an album and every single song is based off of a similar thing. It just doesn't happen.
No.
Well,
But
when you're talking about albums, there's concept albums and things that are
There are concept albums.
So that's where the album name comes into play, because a lot of album names have a lot to do with the actual songs.
Right, but again, we're talking about albums, and then like another album could be a completely different concept album.
Exactly. So the overall band name, it's kind of like saying there's all these TV, or I mean, we could say books, but let's just say TV shows. All these TV shows, they all have, a name that probably has something to do with the show.
Right.
But like the network that broadcasts all these different shows, CBS has nothing to do with the actual shows. That's just a network that puts out these shows. Whereas a band has a name that, has nothing to do with all these different albums and songs that they put out.
I think a lot of bands have some kind of a theme, even if they don't. Just like every person has a personality. Even if they talk about, all kinds of different things, everyone has sort of an overall thing that they're kind of about. I think a band's the same way.
Yeah, I just don't think it's as pronounced.
They have
Now the name.
They have just like people have personalities. Bands have personalities.
Maybe that's all I'm saying.
It's like the difference between movies and actors. Each actor has a different personality, but that doesn't mean that every movie they're in is going to be about the same thing. They just add their little bit of...
But overall, there's a theme, I think, in most cases. Like, name a band that I would be familiar with. Like Green Day or something.
Okay, what do you think of?
I don't know. Well, there's the rock thing, obviously. Kind of anti-establishment. A little bit of troublemaking, a little bit of angst. And that's kind of what they're about.
Their themes have changed over the years because they've been a band for 20 years. And so their first few albums, the themes are a lot different than their middle ones and then their more recent ones.
I think angst runs throughout the whole thing.
The Beatles.
Yeah. And frustration.
The Beatles completely changed over time. They were just kind of a happy-go-lucky, we're going to sing about love songs, in the 60s. But then, when the late 60s, when all the drugs and stuff came out, they started getting really, really just weird.
And they were only a band for 6 or 7 years.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, they evolved in just a shorter period of time, so...
Well, bands have names. Let's talk about some band names. Well, obviously there's Freddy's Fancy, and we talked about that a little bit on our last show.
Move on.
Okay. Well, just so to fill our audience in and bring Brian up to speed.
I did watch that conversation, so.
You watched the whole thing?
Yes.
Well, those are going to get much less interesting as there are tons of them put out. So you probably won't watch them all, but yeah, I mean, I might get tired of this next week. Who knows? But yeah, we talked a little bit about the name of Freddy's Fancy and what Freddy's Fancy's been up to and the recording of 2006. But what other band names are there? I mean, there's Moss 85. I mean, that's huge.
That's obvious.
I was a part of Moss 85. Brian started Moss 85.
So
the Thunder.
Where did that name come from, Brian?
Say Nicky Moss and move on, or just, this is the time, I guess, to.
This is the time to really spill it out, and just pretend there aren't thousands of people listening.
Okay, I'll try. Well, it was the summer of, what was it? I think it was 1999.
We don't want to be here all night, but
it was from Friends,
on a sunny day,
television sitcom Friends, and was it Pete? Monica's rich boyfriend, Pete?
I think that's right.
Is that right? He invented a program that I believe was called Moss 865. And I think it was spelled MOS, but I don't know how I would know that, except for a transcript or something. But maybe I looked it up. I don't know. But I completely misheard it as Moss, MOSS85. And I just remembered it that way and thought that was kind of cool, because the number band thing was in at the time.
Blink 182.
Green Day
75. Now that's an inside joke.
Okay.
And so anyway, I just thought that was cool. And then a year later, when I rewatched the episode, I felt dumb because it was not Moss 85. I was so excited. I remember after that episode hadn't been on in like 6 months, I started like looking up TV Guide and looking for it because I wanted to see it again because I thought it'd be so cool to hear a character on Friends say Moss 85, and then I was sadly disappointed.
I think Eric's still laughing at Green Day 75.
No, the whole thing's interesting. So it was all based on a simple misunderstanding.
That's correct.
Moss 85. And then, years later, Nikki Moss, did she marry someone named Moss? Or was she always named Moss? No, Nikki Moss. How did that work? That's her stage name, I assume.
She just adopted the name. And then bonus, we realized, we could just say it's Nikki's last name when people ask what the last...
So you don't have to actually talk to your fans longer than you have to.
Exactly. We say Nikki's last name, and we move on.
And what about the 85? She was born in 85?
She was born in 86, I believe. I was born in 85, so that would work.
So you were born in 85. Her last name is Moss, and Eric joined the band later.
Yes.
And plus
Eric had nothing to do with it.
There were plenty of other drummers before and after and singers, so...
Oh, yes.
But you were the only drummer that was part of the album, right?
I was the part of the Pipe Down, but there is another album that hasn't come out yet that I was...
Will forever live in infamy.
Speaking of that, maybe we could get into that, but that's kind of off the topic. But I did want to say...
I'll talk for another recording.
You only became popular when Nikki joined the group, right? So the fact that she wasn't in the group when you named it,
That's cold, Eric. That's cold.
What? So the fact that you named the band before Nikki Moss joined it, the fans wouldn't even have any idea that that's true, right?
No, they don't care to research the past. If Nikki wasn't in the band, then they wouldn't look into the past about it. So,
all right.
So that issue never came up, where somebody would confront us with that fact, exposing our lie.
Well, then there's eryo5, which is what I'm calling the show, and that has
eryo,
not eryo, eryo.
I believe I heard Big D say eryo5 in one of the recent radio interviews.
Eryo5, that's what it's called.
Everyone calls it eryo5, but it's eryo5.
I believe it is an ER, which that word itself is pronounced er.
The word,
like if you're stumbling, it's a word in Scrabble.
Okay, I've always known it as eryo5. I don't care. You're not going to get me to pronounce it eryo5 like a...
I'm the only one who pronounces it like that.
I've never heard you pronounce it.
I think eryo5.
I've said eryo5 and you've just accepted it. You didn't really say anything.
It's like when people spell my name ERIC. I just give up. It's not worth it.
Same thing with me and brain.
Brain.
I just got that 2 days ago from UPS. When I had like my tracking number, and after I accepted my package, I just went to the UPS tracking thing on the internet just to see what it would say, and it said package was accepted by Brain CR. But the only thing
Brain CR
they took out was incorrect.
Well, eryo5, I've had that name since I was 14, I guess, and everyone's like, okay, so ER, those are your initials. But what's the rest of it? Now, I don't know how many of you know the official story of how eryo5 started. Anyone?
I do, but I can't remember the two words.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I was going to say, when the rappers would, you know how at the end of rap songs...
Shout-outs?
They would do shout-outs, all the different guests on their song and the producers and stuff. Lil Wayne, eryo5. It's eryo5. I didn't... We were always just an interesting combination. I'm just a skinny blonde kid. Anyway. Okay. It was freshman year. Conant High School. Hoffman Estates. I don't remember the class exactly, but I think it was like second semester freshman year. I was writing, doodling, as I always do.
Amen to that.
Yes, I was a big doodler. I drew cartoons, and I probably still have plenty of them. But I was writing just a word, whatever word came to my mind that started with, and I was going through all the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Alfred, and I would make 3-word sentences. Alfred, then the middle would be a verb, and then the third would be like an object. Alfred bought cats. Derek eats food. Hey, that's pretty good. Guys, and then
Jerk.
And then my XYZ. I'm not saying anything about your weight. And then XYZ
Sure, you're not.
was, those are the difficult ones. Xavier yonked Zeus. And I don't know if any of those are real. I don't think yonking is a verb, but I wrote those words down, and then I was just circling random things. And the ER and the YO, I just circled them, and it was kind of a funny-looking word, and I put a 5 and all slanty. A slanty 5 after it, because maybe number bands were in then. I don't know if they were in 95 yet, but you put a 5 after it.
You were ahead
awesome.
of your time.
eryo5. And that became a clothing or a brand of clothing or anything really hip and groovy.
Wide track pants.
Wide track pants. There was an eryo5 magazine, and they featured dude wear pants, and I don't know, somehow it just caught on, and I've used it for everything I've done since 1995 for the past 16 years.
Because Xavier zonked Zeus. Yonked Zeus.
Yeah, that's literally it.
That does happen.
It became eryo5 magazine, which was a pretty significant thing, and obviously eryo5 studio and eryo5 the musical artist. Now we have eryo5 radio.
It's pretty awesome.
So that's that. That's the story of that name. This is going to take us all night. I'm going to go check. Maybe we should take a little break.
Commercial break.
Let's take a commercial break. I'm going to make sure the camera's still running. And we'll be back in just a minute.